An Indian lady. Her name is Cecelia Spotted Bear. Guess I should have creased it first. Joseph Fast Horse looked at the letter in disbelief. His brow was wrinkled in concern, a frown on his face. Bureau of Indian Affairs? He asked slowly. His wife Annie answered, "It doesn't look like there is any way to fight it." Joseph's shoulders slumped. He sighed. "No, if they say that they are taking my horses and cows, then there's nothing we can do." Annie looked at the letter and scoffed. "They say, to make way for civilization. It doesn't make way for civilization. It's just another way for the white man to take what belongs to us." Everyone was sad the day that the big trucks came. The family and neighbors stood silently as the government's men loaded up Joseph Fast Horse's cows and almost all his horses. Joseph and Mary's oldest daughter, Cecelia, stood on a nearby hill watching as the men loaded her family's animals. She continued watching the dust long after the trucks left. Her family was left with only 10 colts. Cecelia didn't hear the adults talking. Why do they think that Joseph was taking up too much land with his horse business? Annie fiercely replied, "Those white men were just greedy and jealous. My husband was the best at breaking horses. He could train any horse. Those government men just didn't want him making a profit and money." Cecilia's father tried to make a business with his 10 colts, but it was hard. Before the government's truck had come, most of the Native Americans in their neighborhood had businesses, and times were good. The Fast Horse family had big gardens with cows, horses, chickens, and other animals. Now they found it difficult to pay for supplies at the store. They had to go work in the fields of Nebraska from sun up to sundown. The family moved into a chicken house. As they got desperate for warmth because of an early winter, they and others burned the logs, which were supposed to be for a log house, for firewood. When Cecilia's sister was born, there was not enough room in the old chicken house, and Cecelia moved in with her grandma next door. Grandma turned to her young granddaughter. "Cecelia, a storm is coming. Wait until I go get my pipe." As Grandma left the room, Cecelia sat very still. Grandma had told her about the pipe before. Grandma shuffled back with the pipe in her hand. The thunder shook their house as Grandma sat smoking the pipe and silently praying. It seemed like the pipe would part the storm so that it would go around them. Grandma opened her eyes. "See?" Grandma finally said as she pointed it to the 4 directions. "The pipe of our people has power." Cecilia's mind went to the times that Grandma had taken her into the sweat lodge where her people would sit. It was very hot and hard to breathe there. When they would finish praying, they would come out. It seemed like they were good and clean when they were done. Cecilia's family not only practiced the Indian religion, but they also attended the white man's church, mixing everything. Cecilia's grandma was the first one to ever take her to church, but she also believed in the way of the pipe, with all the ceremonies and the medicine of plants. Everything was jumbled and confused in Cecilia's mind. One day at Grandma's house, Cecilia's aunt held out a glass. "Here, Cecelia, take a drink." Cecelia reached for what was in her great aunt's hand, a glass of whiskey. She was 14 and never had tasted any alcohol before. But why not? Everyone else did it. Choking down her first drink, she felt important like an adult. Just then, she looked up to see her grandma. "Why did you give Cecelia alcohol?" her grandma accused her sister-in-law. "She was going to end up drinking anyway. I wanted to be the first to give her a drink." Cecilia's heart was getting harder and more rebellious. Her father and mother decided to send her to a Christian boarding school about 100 miles away. She would be living in the school dorm and only coming home on breaks. Cecelia packed her clothes. There in the doorway was Grandma, staring at her. "Cecelia," Grandma hissed, "be careful." Grandma's eyes flashed with anger. "Don't listen to the people at that school. They will try to tell you about God's laws, but they broke every treaty with us. Don't trust them. They have a forked tongue." Who could Cecelia trust?